So the final presidential debate occurred, and I will now give you my breakdown. And I'm going to have to start by just saying I am incredibly relieved that this is the last debate that I'll have to suffer through. I know a lot of my viewers said that they were tuning out, that they were not watching the debates because they weren't constructive. You didn't learn anything new about the candidates, anything that we already know about them and we dislike about them. It really was exacerbated in these debates because we saw how they interact with each other, how it always just turns into insult matches, and it's just not something that is fun to watch if you want at least a shred of optimism about the direction that our country's headed in. So the good news is that one of these people will lose and go away, hopefully forever. So out of all of the 3 debates so far, just kind of looking at all of them, I thought that they were all pretty close. So with the first debate, I thought that they were almost tied, but I gave Hillary Clinton the edge. With the second debate, I thought that Donald Trump won, although relatively close. Now, when it comes to the third debate, I think that Hillary Clinton won this debate. Now, did she absolutely hand him his own ass? No, she didn't. I think that she performed well, and what Donald Trump really needed, given that he's down in the polls and he's basically hemorrhaging support among Republican women, and these scandals are really shaking his campaign, he needed a blowout. He needed to really put her in her place and make her look bad, and he didn't do that. So I think that this debate might have actually been the final nail in the coffin, because her lead in many swing states, her lead in the polls, when you look at aggregate polling results, it's just huge, and I don't know that he's going to be able to overcome it. So this debate did not help him. Now, just to give you my general take on the debate, I actually thought coming into the debate that Hillary Clinton would probably be at a disadvantage because Chris Wallace was hosting it. And we all know that Chris Wallace is very conservative. He bashed Jill Stein and tried to make her look bad. So I thought that he would try to do the same thing with Hillary Clinton. But in actuality, he was fairer than I thought. So I do have to give him credit where credit is due. Was he a phenomenal moderator? No, because everything that he asked them, it was all worded or framed with the right-wing slant, and that I had problems with. However, Hillary Clinton performed well in spite of this disadvantage, probably because, let's face it, she's a right-winger herself. Now, Trump, generally speaking, he tends to start making good points, but then he'll realize he's making a good point, and then he'll repeat himself. And then I think that whatever point he was going to make, it loses its value. So I think just generally speaking, he's not a very good debater, and it shows. He's just kind of the average person. He's not particularly charismatic. He's not at all charismatic, in my opinion. And I think that, he really fumbled a lot during this debate, and it wasn't a good look for him. Now, there were also a couple of times where Donald Trump got visibly angry and showed that he just doesn't have the temperament to be president. If you can't hold your composure during a debate, then how are you going to hold your composure during intense negotiations with foreign leaders? So, that was not a good look for him. And one thing that I have to commend Hillary Clinton on is that for maybe the first half of the debate, I thought that she performed well based on policy substance, not attacking Trump, but soon enough, it turned into an insult match. Now, when it comes to Hillary Clinton, I thought that her performance was consistent. Certainly, she's a great debater. Even though I think Bernie Sanders probably beat her in every single debate, I think that there were times where she backed him into a corner and he was not able to recover from it. And regardless if you believe her or not, I don't believe her when it comes to certain issues. Like she talks about wanting to raise the minimum wage. She talks about tuition-free colleges at public universities. I don't necessarily believe she's going to fight for these things, but if you're an average viewer, I think that's going to resonate with you. So I think Hillary Clinton won overall. Now, getting to the specifics, when it comes to the Supreme Court, I think that Hillary Clinton gave answers that were virtually perfect. When it comes to gun control, when it comes to abortions, she came off as someone that's reasonable. And if you're kind of on the fence about these issues, like a lot of Americans are, I think that what she said will resonate. And Trump tried to really paint her as this crazy person because of her support of partial birth abortions. But she really was correct to frame it in light that, look, we don't like these things. These are terrible occurrences that happen, but they occur to save the life of the mother. And I'm saying that government shouldn't be allowed to make that decision. They shouldn't decide whether or not the baby or the mother lives. And I think she came off as reasonable. Trump came off as someone who tried to fearmonger too much, and it wasn't a good look. Now, she also dominated him on immigration. She explained how Trump himself exploits undocumented workers and how that hurts our jobs. Look, there wasn't all bad stuff here against Trump. He's correct that Obama is basically the deporter-in-chief. He didn't say that, but many progressives call him that because he has sent so many undocumented immigrants out and is the president that deported the most undocumented immigrants. So that's really something that's frustrating coming from a liberal president. Now, on WikiLeaks, it was really obnoxious that Hillary Clinton decided to bring up Russia again, and I'm glad that Donald Trump called her out on that pivot. That was a strong moment, and there were other moments for Donald Trump that were great. He talked about how Hillary Clinton is effectively playing chicken with Russia and how she keeps fear-mongering with Russia, and that's something that's incredibly scary. If you're a progressive, that's not what you want to hear. She sounds like a Republican when she's talking about Syria, when she's talking about Russia, and Donald Trump sounds like the liberal here, so I have to commend him for these things. Now, he also made some points about Hillary Clinton's corruption. There was a really powerful moment when he said, look, you say you care about human rights, why don't you give back the money that the Clinton Foundation took from Saudi Arabia? He made strong points on Haiti and how the Clinton Foundation was not very helpful in Haiti because she tried to pivot away from Clinton Foundation corruption by saying, look, this foundation, it's given a great rating and it does great work. Well, sure, but that's still a pivot. It's still very corrupt. It sets up a great conflict of interest between you and your presidency. It did between you and your State Department. However, she was able to evade criticism pretty well by throwing the Trump Foundation under the bus and saying, look, this foundation is corrupt as well. And Donald Trump also made a really strong point that her free trade policies make it difficult for him as a businessman to not buy or manufacture products made in America. So, he had his moments overall. But in the end, Hillary Clinton, I think, outshined him. It was a powerful moment when she said, look, I'm happy to compare my 30 years of experience to his 30 years. While I was capturing Osama bin Laden, he was filming The Apprentice. I think that's something that's going to resonate with the American people. And he's right that, her experience, it hasn't been that great. She has a long resume, but in terms of her performance, she wasn't a very good Secretary of State. However, I think when you just think about how the general audience will respond to that, I think they're going to be on Hillary Clinton's side. Now, when it came down to Wallace talking about the 9 women that came forward thus far accusing Donald Trump of sexual assault, I think that was basically the nail in the coffin for Donald Trump. There was really no way that he could defend himself. And look, it was relatively clever for him to link the women who are accusing him of sexual assault to AstroTurf by Democrats. That was revealed in the recent James O'Keefe video. But it's not persuasive seeing that his own comments can be corroborated with their story. Donald Trump said that he grabs women by their body parts. So when you say that you do things like that and you say that you just walk up to women and kiss them, none of these accusations are not in line with what you said. So your own comments defeat you, Donald Trump. Now, when he said nobody has more respect for women than I do, the audience just straight up laughed because it was a joke. We know that you don't respect women, and at that point, I think that's the moment right there where that might have been what you heard as the final nail in his coffin. It was just so bad and cringeworthy.
Nobody has more respect for women than I do. Nobody. Nobody has more respect.
Please, everybody.
Grab him by the pussy.
Oh my God. Stop fucking lying.
And it looked like he just desperately wanted to get off of the topic of sexual assault. He tried to bring up ISIS and whatnot. It was bad. So in the end, I don't think Donald Trump won this debate. Again, he had some great moments, but overall, Hillary Clinton just had a more consistent performance. She looked more solid, and I think that where it counts with undecided voters, I think Hillary Clinton, by and large, performed very well. Now, when you look at the poll that I did on Twitter, my Twitter followers overwhelmingly think that Donald Trump won this debate, and I think that there are ways that you can spin this to make that be the case. However, I personally just don't see how he won this debate, especially with that painful sexual assault portion of it. Look, there was a portion of the debate where Hillary Clinton got pummeled for corruption with the Clinton Foundation, but in the end, it wasn't as powerful as that sexual assault moment. I think that was really devastating for his campaign. So, in the end, I'm glad that the debates are over. I'm sick of hearing from these two people. I'm sick of watching them insult each other. I think we all are ready to move on, and what Donald Trump needed was to win this debate decisively, and I don't think that he did that. I don't think he pulled off the win. And again, he had his moments, But Hillary Clinton, I think, just had a more consistent performance when it comes to her temperament. She proved that she's more presidential. She doesn't get visibly angered at things that Donald Trump says, and he said some pretty strong and harsh things against her. So Donald Trump, he just didn't look good. He didn't argue for his points well enough. He got sidetracked. He repeated himself, and for that reason, I think he lost, and Hillary Clinton ultimately won, and probably now has the election on lock because of it. So unless something dramatic happens within the next 3 weeks, Donald Trump is probably going to lose this election, let's face it. And, if he did win, that would be a political upset. It'd be a huge political upset, in my opinion, but I just don't think that it's in the cards for him. I think Hillary Clinton is going to win because he's proven time and again, not only does he not have the temperament to be president, but he's just wrong on the policies. I mean, even if you believe him and believe that he's more honest and trustworthy than Hillary Clinton, which I don't, I think they're both equally deceptive. But, I mean, he just has bad policies. He argues for trickle-down economics. That's been debunked. I don't think the American people are on your side when it comes to this issue. So in the end, I think it's a wrap for Donald Trump.